Previously on CSIS 2470.
I'll give you this challenge. Next time you have some issue where you are tempted to comment out a line of code or to console something out, try using the debugger and just see where it takes you. If it gets too messy and convoluted and it's messing you up, then just go back to doing it the other way, but give it a try. All right, that's it for the debugger. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at the network panel here. And I've reverted back to our little sticky note here. I just haven't refreshed the page yet. So as soon as I refresh the page, it's going to load the sticky note thing. But before I do, I'm going to click on the network here. And I'm going to click on all right here. And when I hit refresh, let's go ahead and clear this out first. And then I hit refresh, it's going to load the sticky note. And this showed me all of the files that it loaded. There was the index file, the style sheet, and the JavaScript file, right? That's all that there is for this particular project. And it tells you the status. Remember in our Ajax lecture, there's a few statuses we looked at when you're loading data into a browser, and 200 is the status that means everything's good. So we got each of those files without any issues. There's also how big the file is, and you can see the time here. And I've never figured out how to get that time to not be squished against the edge there. I'm not sure why it goes all the way to the edge. You can right click on these and add things and remove things. So let's just try. I'm just going to stick the URL there and see if it goes to the end. And it goes to the beginning. Maybe I can drag it. No. Yeah, I've never figured out how to get that time off the edge of the screen there where I can get a little better look at it. So whatever. I'm going to remove that URL there and we'll leave time there. So it took 3 milliseconds to load index, 2 to load CSS, and 10 to load the JavaScript. Right? That's very, very minimal time. And so it's not that big of a deal, but this could lead us down a path where we find problems with loading things. So if I go in here, this is everything that loaded, but you can separate it out. I can just look at documents, which would be the index. I can look at just CSS files, just JavaScript files, just fonts, which there weren't any for this case, just images or media or whatever. And this is Ajax stuff, which we're going to look at an example of that in just a second. Okay. Now I'm going to clear this out right now. I'm going to reload the page and I'm going to detach this. Actually, I'm going to put it down below here so maybe we can get a little bit better view of what's going on here. And that time still squishes to the edge there. It's so funny. I don't know why it does that. Okay, but now we have this down here, maybe a little bit better view. And you can see at the edge there, it's off the screen, but it's 111 milliseconds. And you can see there were a total of 3 requests, right? 1, 2, 3. It was a total of 2.7 kilobytes transferred. If you add all that up, it should be 2.7. It finished in 95 milliseconds, and there's a total load time of 111 milliseconds there. So there are other things going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing on this panel right here, but this is just how long each of those files took and the total load time right here. Now you may notice here this little 3G thingy right here. I'm throttling, right? I'm forcing the connection to be slower than it really is. So I click here, and I can say no throttling. I had it on 3G just to test what it would look like. So remember, our load time is 111 milliseconds. I'm going to say no throttling. I'm going to clear this, refresh. You can do it down here too. I'm just going to refresh the page. And now we get it's longer. Nice. That's fun. Let's try it again. Yeah, it's still just as bad. Maybe the reason that it's that same speed is because I'm just sitting on my local machine here. I'm not actually running this over the web. Right? So that may be why it's not very slow, regardless of whether I have throttling or not. You can add custom throttling here. You can do offline. You can do slow 4G, fast 4G, whatever. Okay, but that lets you test things out. So I'm going to load up one of my sites here, My Lovely Assistant, and it seemed to load pretty quick. I'm going to open up the console here, go to network, and clear it. And I'm going to reload the page right here. All right, now look at all this stuff here. This can get super overwhelming, right? Look at all this that loaded up. Total load time was 648 milliseconds. For all that stuff, that's pretty solid. If I go here to documents, this is just mylovelyassistant.com, which is just the index page. CSS, there's a whole bunch of CSS files that loaded up there. So now look at this here. It says 0 milliseconds. The reason it says that is because those style sheets are all cached in my browser right now, right? And anybody who's been to my site recently will have them cached in their browser as well. So how do we see what it looks like the first time somebody visits? Well, you disable cache. right? So let's reload it again. And now you can see how long it takes to really load those things. Look at that. They're about 100 to 150 milliseconds each. Okay. I can look at the JavaScript here, and because I disabled cache, I won't see the cache versions here. I'm going to re-enable cache, and it should be 0 milliseconds because it's already stored in the browser. Same with the CSS. Same with some of the images should be stored also. You can see it even tells you memory cache, disk cache. All these are memory cache. So all these images that are being displayed on the page are cached in my browser. If I want to see how long it takes to load them for the first time ever, right, then I can again just refresh it, and you can see it took a little bit longer here, right? So media, I'm not loading any media, loading a couple of fonts, and those didn't take very long. And I'm going to go back, see if we have any Ajax stuff here or some, yeah, it looks like I'm doing something there. I don't remember what that's from. I have to look at my code to see, but I'm going to go back to everything, disable the cache, do a complete clear here, and refresh. Let's do it down here, reload page. And it took 1.26 seconds, right? Now, if I turn on the cache, and I'm going to redo it. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. I have to do that, refresh. And it took 1.2 seconds with the cache on. So it saved a little bit of time, and depending on how big the files are and a bunch of other things, it can tell you a lot of information about. Maybe you need to shrink up an image, maybe it's too big. If I go back to my images here, and I'll turn off cache, and like this image here is 2.9 megs. That's an image in the style sheet. It's calling for in the style sheet. It takes 987 milliseconds. Maybe I should go into Photoshop and manipulate that, make it smaller, or get my Photoshop person who knows what they're doing to do that, right? So there's a lot of things you can do in here to discover how efficient your site is loading, all right? Okay, let's go back to this one here, close out my lovely assistant, and let's look at something that's not so overwhelming, right? I'm going to change this code here with some Ajax stuff here. Don't worry about what the Ajax is. It's just kind of messy code just to call from a sample Ajax site, right? Now, right now, this is all that loaded, okay? This button, when I click it, it's going to display some information in the console here that's coming from it's basically just a generic Ajax placeholder thing, a JSON placeholder website where you can just grab some fake data to test out your Ajax calls, right? So load info is just going to load that, right? So let's clear that, go to the network, and let's refresh, and I'm going to load it. And it tells me that it took 43 milliseconds to load from that site, 38, 36, 66. And so if I wanted to just look at only the Ajax stuff right there, those are all my fetches, right? Where you're fetching data from somewhere else. And so you can look there and see. Now, depending on what the Ajax call is and what site you're linking to and you're getting the JSON data from, there may be nothing you can do about it, right? It may be the kind of thing where this is just how big the data is just how long it takes. And unless that company or that website that you're getting the data from does something better, then you're kind of stuck. Or maybe your code is not calling it as efficiently, but it's a place to look, right? So again, as I've said a few times now, the rabbit hole is deep on this one. But now you know that the network tab exists. So now you can start doing some digging and searching around, right? There's also the memory thing. We're not going to go into any depth in here. And frankly, I'm not very much of an expert on it, but this is another one that can tell you where things might be slowing you down. There's also the performance tab. These three kind of have similar purposes where they help you see how efficient things are loading and being stored and being delivered to the user and so forth. So do a dive on those three. The last thing we're going to look at here is called Lighthouse. And we're not going to show this on this little site that we're using here. We're going to pull up another page for two reasons. One, you cannot actually analyze stuff that's on your local computer like this. You'll notice the Analyze Page Load button here is not active. That's because we're trying to analyze this through the file system, just a local file system. The only way you can do this is if you run it through a server. So that means you have to do it on a live site that's on your remote web servers, or you have to have server software installed on your local computer and run it through that if you're going to test it out. Well, you want to test your live stuff anyway, right? So if it's uploaded to your actual remote server, then you can test it there. So just an example, we'll go back to my lovely assistant here, and we will open this up here. and click on Lighthouse. And now that button, Analyze Page Load, is available because this is being run through an actual server. Now I'm not going to analyze the page because a site this big, it'll take too long for this video. But I just want to show you, if you have this running through a server, then you're good to go. Well, I happen to have installed on this laptop a server, so I can run files through a server. When you get to the Node.js video, you'll understand that a little bit better. So for right now, just push the I believe button that I have a server on my computer and I'm running the files through the server. Don't worry too much about what that means, but let me just go ahead and open that up here. And here is the program here. Now I'm going to close this thing here. Well, actually, before I close this, look here. You can see that the path here is file system C:users or whatever. And if you're on a Mac, that C: wouldn't be there because Macs don't have a C drive, but it looks something like that. Notice here though, it says localhost, or it could be an IP address, 127.0.0.1, and it would also still show it up right there, right? And so what that means and how that works beyond the scope of today, you will learn a little bit about it in the Node.js lecture. But the short version is, this is now actually running through an official web server, which everything we've done in this course has not been doing that. When it's on your local machine, it's not in a web server. It's just in your file path. Now, some of you know about Node and may have been using it this whole time, which is fine. But generally speaking, you probably weren't. And so the only way for you at the moment to test anything through this Lighthouse thing we're going to be looking at is you'd have to have it on your live remote server, right? So you can do that like I just almost did with My Lovely Assistant a second ago. I'm going to just show you something sitting here on my local server on my laptop. All right, enough about the server stuff. This is just a thing that when I click on it, it randomly gets a song from Metallica. And I went through their catalog and I pulled out all of their songs that only have one word in the title. So everything, when I click it, it's just randomly pulling out a title from all their different albums that happens to be one name. I thought that was kind of fun. Okay, let's open this up here and go to Lighthouse. And then I'm going to stick it back to the side here. I like it better over there. And what this is, if you click this, it'll analyze the page. Now, there's already some little red things there that are in the console. I am aware of them. They are mistakes that I purposely put in there so that we can see what happens in Lighthouse here. But when I click Analyze Page Load, I can see what it's going to look like for a mobile device. And I can check these 4 categories or any individual one or any combination of them. So I'm just going to click Analyze Page Load, and you can see it takes just a little bit of time here, and it's giving you a little page loading. And I'm going to talk mindlessly because if I don't talk, then the AI editor will remove the dead space from me just watching something load. So it's done. Okay, performance 100%, which makes sense because it's pulling the files off my local computer. There's no going across the web or anything. But there's 3 things where we're not doing so hot. One of them is accessibility. That's the most important one. And especially these days, more and more, there are new laws being passed to make sure that your websites are accessible. And so how do we fix these things? Well, if you click on them, it'll tell you. So I'm going to click on accessibility here, and it says improve the accessibility of your web app. And then right here, it tells me image elements do not have the alt attribute. So if I go look at my image, we'll find that the alt is missing, right? And we've not really talked much about the alt attribute in this class. And so here we are now talking about it. But you can click on this link and it's got some documentation about it. There's all kinds of links down here that you can click on. But we're just going to go into our image elements and change it so that it does have an alt attribute. So if I go here, here's the image right there. Okay. And alt equals Metallica image or something like that. What does this do? This gives the screen reader for people who are visually impaired some information. And there are other things you can do where you give the image a role. Maybe the image is decorative, or maybe the image is a button they're supposed to click on. And you can do that with other stuff we're not really going to get into today. But there are other ways to tell this image what its functionality is as well for helping out screen readers. But for now, we're just going to put the alt tag right here, do the alt attribute. And we're just going to clear this out. And we're going to reload the page here. And I will talk mindlessly again for a moment while it loads. And in a minute, we're going to test out the desktop version of it. And that was the only accessibility problem we had. Now notice our performance took a hit that time. That's a little bit weird. We'll come back to that. The other thing, best practices and SEO. Okay, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And so this is giving us some tips, which we'll see when we click on it, saying, hey, if you do this, you might have a little bit more Google juice and you might be more easily found on the web. So let's go in here to best practices and see what's missing. Serves image with low resolution. Let's skip that for just a minute. It does not have a meta name equals viewport tag with the width or initial scale. Now you might recall that when we do responsive websites, we learned this in 1430, that you put that in there, right? And you might also recall that I don't have that memorized, that I always have to copy it from my other site. So I have it sitting right here ready to go. And I'm just going to paste it right in there. That goes in the head. Just put it right up here. And so I'll put that in there. And let's just read down here. Text is illegible because there's no viewport meta tag. So we just fixed that. So let's just clear this out and reload it while I yammer on about nothing while it loads. Okay, so best practice is still not quite there. Let's take a peek. Serves images with a low resolution. Learn how to provide responsive images, right? Browser errors are logged to the console. These image things, generally speaking, if you're going to do anything with the images, you're going to need a Photoshop person to help you out, okay? Or somebody who knows how to manipulate images, not in code, but the actual image itself. But look here, browser errors were logged to the console. And what does it say? Failed to load, right here. Well, look at that. It says style 2. I purposely did that. The style sheet's name is actually just style. So if the style sheet doesn't exist, it'll give you an error there, right? So now I can either just get rid of the style sheet completely or apply the style sheet, right? So now I've fixed my typo, right? My fake typo. Clear that out, reload the page, and you're actually going to see what the page is really supposed to look like now. And then we'll display it in full screen there. And now look at that. We've got 100% performance, 100% accessibility, 100% on best practices. Let's go ahead and play the game here, right? That's the game. Then the last thing is SEO. Let's click on that. And it doesn't have a meta description, right? So if you come over here, this is another thing where you can do a meta tag. Name is a description. And then in here, you will put content, which is what the site's about. So we'll say fun, random, Metallica, song, generator, something like that, right? And so now we've given it a description. So when Google's searching, it'll see this meta tag. That's one of the things that most algorithms look for. Who knows what Google's algorithm does anymore these days? But this is a Chrome browser, which is Google's browser. And so I would imagine if they're telling us that this is better for SEO, then it's better for SEO. So there we go. We've added the meta tag, and we will now clear, analyze page load, and we're going to cross our fingers and hope that we get the fireworks that come when you get 100% on everything. And here we go, and we got 99% on the performance there. Nice. All right, let's just see what we're missing here. And if you scroll down here, there's so much stuff here to understand and wrap your head around, which is why I say there's another deep rabbit hole here. And one of the things, maybe the image is, okay, so image elements do not have explicit height and width. This one always trips me out. I don't know why that it needs that, but let's just do it and see if it makes a difference. So if I hover over that, it's 1000 by 563. That's pretty huge. So what I think I'm going to do, rather than putting the image size into the HTML tag, I'm going to open this up in Photoshop and shrink it down a little bit, right? So here we go, Photoshop. Now, if you're not a Photoshop person, that's fine. And if you don't have access to it or whatever, my goal isn't to teach you how to be a photo manipulator person here, but it's to show you where to look and then hunt down things and see if you can figure out how to fix them, right? And sometimes you're going to need help. Maybe you're going to have to hire somebody from Fiverr.com and say, hey, here's an image. Can you make it better for me, right? So once this opens up, I'll just drag this in here. Metallica right here. The only problem is, as far as I know, I don't know any way to export from Photoshop as a WebP file. And so we will not be able to export it, right? Normally you manipulate it and you export it as a ping or something. Well, we're not going to be able to do that. So I'm just going to change the image size right here. And the resolution's not great. So I'm going to set it to 200 pixels. And then I'm going to set the percentage to 50% and see how that looks. But I'm just going to save it And we'll do lossless. I don't know which one's better. That's where you have to study this stuff. I'm not an expert at this stuff. But I just saved it. And so now I'm just going to reload the page here first. It shrank it up a little bit, but let's just go ahead and see what happens when we reload it now. See if it's any better. And again, I will speak mindlessly about, I don't know, ducks and chickens and birds, and there we go. And we're still at 99%. I'm not sure what's going on there. So let's take a look here, see what we got. Let's try this right here. Put the width and height directly in there, right? So they are 5 by 282. Let's take a peek here. So we'll say equals 500, height is 282. And I'm not sure why that matters. Never understood that, but let's do it. See what happens. And I'll show you once this loads where you can link off to some resources that tell you more about this stuff. Again, I'm not an expert on this. Still, now the best practices drop down, right? So that's probably because I put that in there. Generally, that's not a good idea to do that. So I'm not sure what's the skinny on that. Let's just ignore that. And I really wanted to show you the 100% so you could see what happens. I don't see it though. I don't know what's going on. So let's just clear this and let's look at a desktop version, see how that loads up. Maybe we'll get 100% there. There we go. We got 100% on the desktop. And there's your little fireworks, right? So sorry, I know that was a little painful there. And again, I'm not an expert at using this tool, but I have used it to optimize things a little bit. And you can see that sometimes it's really simple just to change a couple of things. And every time there is a mistake, it will tell you what it is, and you can click on links to go do some research. And again, stuff like this, ChatGPT is your friend. Go to ChatGPT, show it your code, and say, this is the error I'm getting when I use Lighthouse. It knows what Lighthouse is, and it can help you find the problem and fix it. Let's just drop this back down here again for a minute. And we've looked at all of these things here, right? We know elements and console. We use that all the time. Sources is where your debugger is. Network performance and memory shows you where things might be slow or bogging down. Application can show you where your local storage is. We didn't really get into privacy and security, and we're not going to. And then Lighthouse is this tool we've just been playing around with. There are plenty of other things we did not cover. And in fact, I'll give you a little teaser of something to hunt down and find. In some of these tabs, you have the ability to record a page load where it will record everything, and it makes a file that you can analyze that has all the data recorded in it. And there's a ton of data in it. And it's in performance, yeah, right here, the performance, where you can record a session and you can analyze the data. And again, rabbit hole, right? Go down the rabbit hole and learn about it. My goal was to just show you that these things exist. And now you've opened up your toolbox and you saw this hammer thing and this screwdriver thing and this wrench thing. And you're like, okay, I know roughly what they're supposed to do. I know that they can do 1,000 things more than what Jeff has shown me. But now I have a basic idea, and now I know what rabbit holes to go down. So that's it for this one, folks. Thanks again, as always, for attending the lecture. And take a peek on the screen there. If you can answer those questions, you're ready for the quiz, and you learned everything you need to know from this video. We'll see you next time.